In the PCM system, we teach prevention procedures and we teach de-escalation procedures and also post-crisis intervention procedures. But one great de-escalation procedure we talk about is how to de-escalate what we call an inconsequential verbal assault. Some individuals, particularly Dr. Glenn Latham, used to refer to this as junk behavior. That is, junk behavior, as you might learn if you've had our behavior tools course, is behavior that is it's undesirable, but it's not dangerous nor illegal. It's just very, very annoying and perhaps very inappropriate. And what we like to do in de-escalating an inconsequential verbal assault is we don't ignore the behavior. Ignoring, many behavior analysts refer to as an extinction condition, where the reinforcer that is typically given, that is your attention, is completely withheld. You pretend you didn't even hear that the person said anything. The problem with a straight up ignoring is that the individual will usually rapidly escalate. And if they said, like, you're a poopy head, if you pretended that they didn't say anything, they'll usually get right up in your face and say, I said you're a poopy head, or something even worse than that. So we don't usually recommend a firm, complete extinction where you pretend that they did nothing, or a complete ignoring. The preferred thing to do is to de-escalate an inconsequential verbal assault with what we call a non-reactive response. It is a response. You're clearly responding to the person, but you're very careful about your response. The response is very particular. It's you have a certain goal in mind of letting the person know you heard them, but you're really not concerned about the content that they had. The best example I can give to you is of a teacher that I saw once who was never even through our class. She was just naturally a very good teacher. And she had to de-escalate an inconsequential verbal assault that most individuals simply would not have been able to handle. And a very, very young boy, a first grader, no more than 7 years old, raised his hand in class, and instead of calling his teacher by the name, he said, hey ho, hey bitch, I can't do these freaking fractions. Only he didn't say freaking. And the teacher, without even giving it a moment's thought, replied to him in the most natural manner I've ever seen. She said the following, Bobby, if you have a question, I'll be happy to answer you. And my name's Miss Johnson. When you use my name, I'll be happy to answer you. With a big smile on her face. And I thought that was remarkable, because most adults don't react that way to children dropping the F-bomb on them and calling them hoes and things like that. So there was a couple of more hoes and bitches and a couple of more shout-outs and F-bombs and things like that. And then the student just kind of got a little bit exasperated because the teacher used the same response. If you have a question, my name's Miss Johnson, I'll be happy to help you. He finally said, Miss Johnson! And then she said, yes, Bobby, you have a question? Do you need some help? And he said yes, and she came over to him. But the reason that why she did what she did, and the reason why it worked, is that she attended to the good part of the question, that is, I'm having problems with fractions. She did not make any response or talk about the inappropriate behavior. So you might say that she ignored part of his response, and the part that she ignored was the cursing part. She, however, did not ignore the fact that he was asking for help. And she immediately acknowledged that he was asking for help, and she just, in a matter-of-fact sort of way, by the way, my name's Miss Johnson, and I'll be happy to help you when you call my name. And she said it as though he simply called her by the wrong name, like he called her Miss Elliott instead of Miss Johnson. She did not behave as though he said any bad words. Consequently, he stopped cursing in about 2 or 3 attempts. So that's a good example of how to de-escalate an inconsequential verbal assault. And what you should think of is you should think that you're on a fishing expedition. But so is the other individual. And what they're trying to do is they're fishing for a big reaction. So every time they curse when they're asking for something, they're casting their line. And they're hoping you'll bite. And by biting, we mean you're going to react badly to them. That is, you shouldn't talk with that language to me. You need to respect me. Which is exactly what the child was expecting. And the child would have escalated after that. So instead of doing that, the teacher casted her own line. And her own line had different bait. I'll be happy to help you. My name's Miss Johnson. And she would cast her line back. But she never took his bait. Eventually, the child gave up and he took the teacher's bait. And then he asked her the question properly. You can do the same technique with anybody who is behaving very inappropriately, looking for a big reaction out of an adult or a caregiver. Every time they cast their line, every time they say something dirty or naughty or nasty or something that gets a big reaction, remember they're fishing. And you have to get out your fishing rod and you have to start casting too. And some of the things that I like to cast with is I'll just ask them questions about things I know they enjoy. So if they're very, very inappropriate, I might give a non-reactive response after they curse or say whatever they say. Okay, I might say okay, or I understand, so they know I heard them. And then I'll say, hey, did you see that basketball game last night? And usually it doesn't take the first couple times that you cast, but it's just like fishing. You rarely catch a fish the first time you throw your line in the water. It usually takes an afternoon. So you keep casting your line. And eventually what happens is the person bites, but you have to make sure not to bite when they cast. And if you can do that, you'll become very good at de-escalating inconsequential verbal assaults.